This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East L.A. Music Stories, episode 27. My guest is Ruben Guaderrama of the Blazers. By way of introduction, I'm going to just read the first paragraph of an article that I wrote back in 2009. The title of the article I wrote about them was called The Blazers, the Other Band from East L.A. And that's because they were often compared to Los Lobos, because their style was in fact similar to that of Los Lobos, and that they also played música norteña, Tex-Mex, and cumbias alongside rockabilly, blues, and rock and roll. They were also friends of Los Lobos, and Cesar Rosas of Los Lobos produced the Blazers' first two albums. The Blazers, however, had their own distinct style in those genres, wrote most of their own songs, and made their own way. They recorded 4 albums on the Rounder record label, toured the U.S. and Europe multiple times. Their most recent release was 17 Jewels on Little Doug Records in 2008. So since then, Ruben's been doing his own thing. Welcome, Ruben. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. We're going to talk about your musical career, which has been very interesting
Oh,
and
okay.
accomplished. So tell me, how did the Blazers form?
Well, Manuel and I were guitar buddies since the 10th grade.
Emmanuel's last name is?
Manuel Gonzalez. Yeah. A lot of people used to call him Big Manuel.
Yes, because he was rather large.
He was a big man. But then later on in years, people used to call him Manny. And I never called him Manny. I always thought it's Manuel.
Okay.
So that we throughout all that time since high school, we'd always played together. We'd always try to write songs and try to do so many things. And finally, we got a chance to actually perform those songs at gigs in the late 80s and into the early 90s. We got a record deal with Rounder Records.
Right. So let's go back to the beginning. You were telling me the story about you were there at the inception of Los Lobos. Talk about that, how you knew those guys before that.
Oh, well, like when I first met them,
Yeah.
we all met each other when we were teenagers. We were in high school. All the musicians in that area at the time, in our teens, we were all kind of in a circle, hanging around, playing gigs, starting bands together, and breaking up the band the next week, starting another band. Manuel was playing bass. He told me he was going to play bass with these guys at a party, at a backyard party. And he said, but said he was going to play drums. He said, Victor's going to play drums. And I said, oh, man, that's cool. And I knew Victor. And then he said, and Art Pinal's going to play guitar. He goes, and David's going to play guitar. Well, I didn't know David. So I show up and it's David Dalgo, and they just killed. They just burned. They were going through some Johnny Winter stuff and killer blues, rock and roll type things. And it was great. Anyway, a few days later, whenever it was, I used to go to Cesar's house because him and I used to jam on Beatles songs. We're big Beatle fans, as you are as well.
Yeah.
How can you not be if you're that our age, that generation? So I told Cesar, I said, hey, I went to a party tonight and Manuel's playing bass and I met this guy, David, that was just phenomenal, man. He's killer. He says, well, I know Dave. And him and I were talking about, we're going to start rehearsing. We're going to start a band, just do Mexican folk music. And I said, okay, cool. That sounds like fun. And I heard them play like a few months later. And I said, this is something else, man. They were so good at it, because David was playing all the violin parts on the mandolin, and to mariachi songs and folk songs, he wasn't playing violin at the time, but then it wasn't long before he ended up playing violin. And he wasn't playing accordion at the time.
That's
and
crazy.
It wasn't long before he got that.
That's crazy. You pick
It
up
is, right?
any instrument and get great on it. Yeah. I think you said earlier that it was actually, Cesar said, tomorrow I'm going to get together with Dave.
Something like that. It was
literally right at the inception of the group.
Yeah, right at the beginning of that whole thing. And Conrad was playing bass. He was playing upright. And yeah.
Conrad Lozano. So was it around, I know I went to Garfield High School. I know David and Cesar and most of Los Lobos, all of them virtually went to Garfield, except for Steve Berlin. But were you going to Garfield or where were you?
Oh, I went to Roosevelt. We were
Ooh,
rivals.
rival school. So you lived more close to Boyle Heights, or where were you?
Yeah, I was in Boyle Heights. I lived right near Roosevelt High School, like a few blocks.
So you actually lived a little distance away from Caesar and David, right?
Yeah, so it's like sometimes when I would go over there to Caesar's house, sometimes he would pick me up, or I would just get dropped off because I didn't have a car. He was like he already had a car, and it was we're at that age where
Yeah.
you're on the verge of and it's crazy because I remember I had a driver's license because I thought it was all cool. I got a
Driver's license and no car.
no car, so I had a real clean record for a few years. No tickets, nothing, because I didn't drive.
Yeah, wow. So again, tell me about how the Blazers, the first guys that got together as the Blazers, who were they?
We Mario and I kept trying to do different things, and then um, we had Art Pinal was playing with us on guitar, and we had a couple of different drummers, and we had this guy Bruce played drums with us, Bruce Walker, and we landed a gig that Art seemed to get through a friend of his. It was at a casino, and we ended up playing at this casino every weekend. We were the house band.
Is that the one in Bell Gardens?
It was Bell Gardens, and it was called the Bell Casino. And so every weekend we had a different name for the band. We couldn't decide.
Do you remember any of those names?
Oh yeah, we called ourselves the Doorknobs, the Silver Stones, the Shoes. Oh no, Los Locos, Los Alborotados. We would make up whatever would work that weekend. But one day Art and Manuel were driving to the gig together, and they almost got in a car accident, and we were waiting around. I was waiting. I said, "Where are they? They're late, right?" And they almost got in a car accident on the freeway, and everything came to a standstill. Where it just, vehicles almost hit, and they stopped. And when everything stopped, Manuel said the only thing he could see out of the window of the side was the big emblem on a big Blazer truck. It said Blazer right next to him, right? And he said that was like instilled in his memory because it was so scary, right? So I said, well, let's call ourselves the Blazers. And after that, we never changed it.
That was a great name because it also suggests like a rock and roll band, the Blazers. It's a great rock band name.
Yeah, and I didn't know actually till later that there was already a few bands called the Blazers. There was a band from the 50s called Dyke and the Blazers.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, and
they were from I believe Tucson, maybe. But yeah, I actually did a gig with them because they were inducted into the Arizona Music Hall of Fame, Dyke and the Blazers, the same year my dad was posthumously inducted. So I performed there, some of my dad's stuff, and actually jammed with Dyke and the Blazers.
Well, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Cool. It's a black group, R&B. Yeah. They had was it Funky Broadway or something Broadway was their big hit.
Was that it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway, so there was another Blazers too.
Pardon me?
You said there was another Blazers as well that had.
Yeah, in the East Coast somewhere, but I don't know what.
And you had no legal trouble where they tried to stop you either group?
No, we never did. Just every now and then when the internet came into the picture, I thought there was going to be problems. I would tell people just look us up, right? But then when people would look us up, ironically, the basketball team would come up.
Portland Trailblazers?
Yes. And so it's kind of, so I would tell people you got to type in the Blazers band from East L.A. and then we come up. So that's what happens there.
Yeah, I just looked down at my notes here and it says that you used to play trumpet and you saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and that got you to get guitar.
Well, in high school, I played trumpet. I tried out the trumpet, I think I did it for one semester. And I might have marched in one football game, but I was never any good. I couldn't get it, I was already playing guitar, so I said, it's not progressing here.
Well, it's like me. I played clarinet from the 3rd grade to the 9th grade, and
that's a long time, though. That's
and I gave it up for guitar when I was about 12 or 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you remember telling me about when you saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, how that affected you?
Well, like most of us, like of our generation, it just knocked me out. I couldn't believe the impact that it had. My sister, who's just a couple years older than me, her and I were just anticipating, waiting for the Beatles to come on the Ed Sullivan Show because we knew they were coming and we liked the songs already. We were into it, but when they came on, it was like boom. It just knocked me out so intensely. I couldn't believe it. I just stared at it and I thought to myself, how are they producing this? They were live, but I couldn't understand how this was just impacting me so intensely. I couldn't, something like that hadn't happened since I saw Miguel Aceves Mejia at the Million Dollar Theater
Wow.
when I was 7 years old. Because my mom was a big music lover, so she would take us to see shows and different things. And when I saw that, I remember 6, 7 years old, just sitting there crying.
Wow.
I didn't know what to do. And that's the same feeling I got when I saw the Beatles on that TV. I just didn't know what to do. So why is this happening to me? But that's the power of music.
I try to explain to young people that weren't around when the Beatles actually happened and saw them on Ed Sullivan. It was so different. They were English. They had the long hair. Their suits were different. They wore the cool Spanish boots. Their charisma, the image, their accents. It was literally like they could have been from another planet.
Yeah.
There'd never been an English group that rocked like that before. To see these English guys kicking ass and rocking out with that charisma and that look, it was a totally different thing.
Those distinctive voices. I mean, like I learned to recognize the different voices early on because I was such a fan. I would listen to the records over and over. Oh, that's Lennon singing that part.
Right.
Harrison singing that part. It's like you knew if you're a true fan, you just like, and then the guitar parts, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Golly.
Yeah, man.
You can't even, like you say, you can't explain it.
No, you can't unless you really experience them in real time. When each album came out, how great it was, how different it was. And new people, young people, they can go through all this stuff and love it, and that's great. But there's nothing like doing it in real time that what we went through. Like the first time you heard Day Tripper or I Feel Fine, how different the guitar sounded, how great the songs were, how revolutionary it was. Even She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, were different, different chord structures and harmonies. And, it was totally a new thing.
And I was trying to play guitar at the time because it was really close to around the time. I'm not sure if it happened right before or right after when I got my first guitar from my brother, because my brother, I was in elementary school, my brothers were in high school, and they were graduating, and my brother Angel bought a guitar. He wanted to be a guitar player. So then he graduated high school and he was leaving he joined the military. He joined the Air Force. So right before he left, they said, "Hey, is it okay while you're gone? Can I use your guitar to practice? I want to learn how." He goes, "You do what you want. It's yours. Keep it." So I got my first guitar.
All right.
That
was it? What kind was it?
It was St. George. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
St. George. And I still have it. And the action's pretty high. The strings are about half inch above the.
What about an amp? What amp did you have?
I didn't have an amp. I had this little thing that looked like a radio, like an old Woody radio that my sister-in-law Pat, she had this radio from her dad because her dad Fidel, he was an upright bass player and he let me use it. And and that was some of my first training, because I would go to their house, I would go to his house, and he would show me a couple of chords, and he'd be playing like country western tunes, and some swing, and then he'd yell at me, G B, A minor, you're late. That was very cool,
Speaking of country western, did you used to watch Kel's Corral?
Yes, yeah, man, and the Cal Worthington thing, and then a little later was Glenn Campbell Hour and Johnny Cash show, and oh man, how do they play that guitar like that? To this day, I still haven't learned the intro to Marty Robbins' El Paso.
Right, yeah.
That's
Again, we were pre-internet, pre-digital technology. And so, I mean, we had to learn songs off of records, off of other people, chords off of, they couldn't go to YouTube and go to tutorials.
yeah. There was none of that. There was none.
Or
And then
lyrics, you had to get the lyrics off the record.
and the only training as far as reading music was when I played trumpet for that one semester,
Yeah,
and I realized, there's something here. No wonder the horn players all know how to read because they learn their instrument simultaneously while they're reading.
right.
Now the guitar players, there was nobody to teach us how to read, so we were on our own.
That's right.
It was tough.
Yeah, to this day, head musicians in that sense.
Yeah.
So getting back to the casino in Bell, so Gene Aguilera, our mutual friend, um, who was a banker, but at the same time, he was very musically involved. For a long time, he managed Little Willie G, maybe even to this day, I don't know, maybe.
A big music lover.
And a music collector.
He's a
The
collector.
most incredible album collection you'll ever know in 45s. But he did a lot of stuff. He co-wrote a song on the Ry Cooder Chavez Ravine album, and he's done a lot of things. He's a very interesting person. So he used to bring Cesar Rosas down to your gig, right?
Yeah, well, we all knew each other already, and then I guess it was just like word of mouth. They showed up together, and Cesar was with him, and then Cesar would come down almost every week whenever he was free, and we'd jam and just have a great time. But Gene was really instrumental in helping us to get our first demo cassette together to send to record companies. I kept saying, "Hey, you guys should get a record deal," and blah blah. And I go, "Yeah, well, how do we do that?" We devised a plan, and Gene was real instrumental in making that happen. He was, because he believed in the band. He loved it. He loved the band, So we got this. We got a plan. He said, "Let's attack." His idea was, let's attack Rounder Records because they were the biggest record company of the independent labels, right? I said, "Okay, cool. What do we do?" He said, we bought a bunch of postcards and addressed them to Rounder Records, and we stamped them. And every time we did a gig, if somebody came up and said, "Hey, I like the music, I like your band," if they said something positive, we go, "Thanks, man. Would you fill this out and mail it? It's already got a stamp. You don't have to spend no money."
Very smart.
Yeah. So by the time they heard us at South by Southwest, and we met the people from Rounder, they said, "We sure got a lot of fan mail from you guys." Well, that's cool. I think that worked. But they said they liked us anyway. They liked our performance at South by Southwest, and so that's where that hookup started right there.
And it led to your record deal with them, and your first album was called
First Short Fuse.
Yeah.
You want to see the cover?
Yeah.
That's the first album right there.
Very cool.
Yeah, and the first two albums, they agreed to do vinyl on them. This was at the time when vinyl was starting to, go by the wayside. But then they did CDs and vinyl of that, which was, I thought, really cool. Then East Side Soul came just a year later.
The second one. So tell me the members on the first album on Short Fuse.
The first album was Manuel and myself, of course, and then Lee Stewart on bass. He was our bass player, and Ruben Gonzalez on drums.
Yes.
Yeah. And since both of us were named Ruben, so we'd always call him Ruben Carlos because that was his middle name. I had no middle name, so it's yeah. And then Mondo Gaz came in on drums on the second album. Yeah. So, so we had by the time the second album came out, we had a different drummer. I started thinking, man, are we like Spinal Tap?
I know that's
a different drummer. And then we did have a different drummer on the next album.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
So tell me about the songs on that first album and the genres that you covered.
We did. We wrote some rhythm and blues songs. We wrote a couple of ballads, and then we did a couple of cumbias. Because whenever we played our shows, I loved cumbias, and so it's like we'd always incorporate that within the show, and people would react to it in a positive way.
Were you doing any Tex-Mex yet?
Not as much, just a little bit. We didn't use that until we got Jesse later on accordion.
Mm-hmm.
Then we did more of that. But in the beginning, it was a lot of cumbias and some boleros here and there. A lot of rock and roll, a lot of rhythm and blues.
So after that first tour, is that when you got the booking agent? You started touring the United States and Europe. Talk about that.
Well, we did South by Southwest the year before, or 2 years before, something like that. I think it was 91 when we did our first out-of-state gig. We went to Tucson, Arizona. And as a matter of fact, there was a show with Los Lobos. And then we started getting a little bit of publicity around LA and all this. And then we got a chance to go to Texas to do South by Southwest. We ended up in Austin and San Antonio. We hooked up with Rounder. Then in 94, we finalized the deal with Rounder. And the first album, Short Fuse, came out, I believe it was May. By August, we were on an airplane to Italy. I don't know how that happened. I mean, it's just like, it's just like, what? How did this happen? We're all of a sudden we're playing in front of an Italian audience on the island of Sardinia.
How did they take it?
It was really positive and really good, but I didn't know at the time the Italian audiences were a little bit subdued. They would sit there song after song and politely, and I'm thinking to myself, man, we're not connecting. It's not happening. So when we would finish the show at the end, all right, thank you very much, good night, the whole place exploded. And then I'm going like, what happened in between the songs? I don't know. It threw me off. I don't know how to. It was a little bit confusing at first, but we learned to understand the situation.
And what other countries did you do on that tour? Do you remember?
The first one we went to from Italy. We went back up to Holland, and we did a couple of German places, a couple of German cities, and Switzerland.
Were you doing any Tex-Mex by then in that first tour?
We did a couple here and there.
Because I always thought, that obviously Germany and Austria, that's where the polka came from, and exactly. Tex-Mex kind of came from German music. So those audiences are really receptive to that.
Yeah, they love it, So, and they were receptive to what we're doing, And what got me to understand a little bit more about the business was when we did the final gig of that first tour was in Zurich. We finished in Zurich, Switzerland, and the first album was out, yes, but some young guy comes, some young kid, maybe 20 years old, 21 years old. He comes up to us at the end of the show and he says, hey, and he shows me the CD. He says, would you sign this for me? And now I'm like thinking, what? Because I don't think anybody had ever asked us to sign anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
But what got me was like, wait, we're in Zurich, Switzerland. Where did you get that? I asked him. And he says, well, at the CD shop down the road, And I said, whoa, now I understand what they were telling me about distribution. Because Rounder Records had international distribution. Yeah, exactly. So I learned pretty quickly as to what that meant. I didn't know. I was, pretty naive. We didn't know a lot of things. We were going by the seat of our pants, man. Just like, here we go, let's go. So
the miracle of distribution. You gotta have it.
Yeah, that was the days when when all that the internet was not as sophisticated as it's gotten now. People tell me, hey man, I got a couple of your songs off of Spotify, and I'm going like, where's my pay?
Where's my 10 cents?
Yeah.
They pay about 0.03 cent per stream or something like that, not even a penny. 300th of a penny.
Oh,
yeah. So what about the first US tour? Was that before the European tour? You went on a van or what
the first time we went all the way across the U.S.
Yeah.
to the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was afterwards. That
That
was
was
after
after
the
the
European.
European. Okay.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, you would
That'd
tend
be,
to think
it'd be the
the other
other way
way around.
around.
But then, and I don't remember exactly like what month of what part of the year that was
Yeah.
and when all that took place. But we ended up going to the East Coast once a year and through the Midwest a couple of times a year. We'd go to Texas all the time because that was our biggest draw, you know. But we ended up really enjoying and meeting a lot of great people out of Chicago and Lincoln, Nebraska, of all places, Green Bay. We did some gigs in Green Bay, and like we started to get homesick, for food.
Mexican food.
Yeah, because it's like you don't find it the way you find it in Southern California.
Yeah.
The way, well, we're used to growing up a certain thing. But one time we were in Lincoln, Nebraska, and somebody told us, "Hey, man, there's this place, blah blah." And really? He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'll meet you tomorrow at 1 p.m. and I'll take you guys down there." We went, we followed them, and all of a sudden it felt like we were in Huntington Park. It was just like, "Hey, we're in the barrio. We're like in Boyle Heights, and the food is great." It was just like there's a gigantic Mexican community there, so it was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
We felt kind of safe a little bit.
Yeah. What kind of venues were you doing on that tour?
Pretty much concert clubs, concert clubs that and a lot of festivals. They were doing festivals throughout the Midwest. They hold festivals all through the summer for 4th of July, for this, for that, you know. So that was a lot of fun. We did, and there was different people on the bill all the time, which was always fun. I remember doing one festival in Chicago with and it was CJ Chenier playing, Clifton Chenier's son, and he's just like those guys rock the house. I mean, like nobody is sitting down when they're playing. Everybody's on their feet. It's just good time party music, just like go, go, go. And we try to keep up, It was really cool. So much fun.
Yeah. So now the second album came out and you did some more touring on that one.
Yeah, yeah. And the second album was like came out pretty quickly because we had all these songs, you know,
Building up.
put up like you spend 25 years collecting songs
Right, right.
and then
And the second album.
you're going like so by the time the third album came out, that's when we were really okay, we need some songs, so it's like it was good though. It was good. We always had stuff going on. Manuel was a unique talent. Yeah, his creativity was pretty much nonstop.
Co-write a lot.
Yeah, we did all the co-writing together, so it was like, in a sense, it's like, face to face. Do it like this, do it like that. Wait, dude. Really, like, I was lucky in that I got to see Manuel's brilliance before anybody else. When the songs were being born, he goes, "What about this?" And then we feed off each other and build the songs up, But he was so great at coming up with stuff. I remember I would have a set of lyrics. I go, look at this. And then I just start strumming one chord and he'd have a great melody to the lyric, like right spot on.
Wow.
Okay, let's keep that, That's where he was.
So you had like on your first album, it was mostly original, but you had a couple of covers. Or what covers did you do?
We did Tiburón. We did a couple of cumbias, El Año Viejo and Tiburón. And then we did Mi Última Parranda, which is like I guess it's a bolero, but it's like a blues type of song, and it's about drinking. So like I don't want to advocate.
Right. And as far as English language covers, I think you did Oop Oop A Doo, but on your second album?
Second album we did Oop Oop A Doo and Going On Up the Country.
Oh, Canned Heat.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you sing it?
Manuel sang that one.
Did he do it in falsetto like the record? Yeah,
No, he didn't, man. Manuel had a high tenor, man. He could hit those notes just
full
boom.
voice.
Yeah, he didn't do the falsetto thing. No, he just like mm. He had a range that sometimes reminded me of Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder hits those. People don't think that Stevie Wonder sings that high, but because it sounds so thick, it's his full voice. He's
Right.
hitting notes, man. He's up there.
You had mentioned that when you and Manny first got together and you made your first band, you were called Long John Silver.
Yeah,
What was
we
that
wanted
about?
we wanted to be pirates, but we were doing Rolling Stone songs and old rhythm and blues songs, and Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry was a important to us because he was the poet.
Yeah, absolutely.
He 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 would deliver a story like nobody else. It seemed like that guy just landed it, and for 3 years he had the whole thing covered.
Yeah.
Explaining different things, but he would do it in a sophisticated way, whereas his lyrics always intrigued me, and that you know he would say coolerator, you know,
Right.
and he wouldn't say a brown Cadillac, he'd say a coffee colored Cadillac.
Absolutely. Nadine. Absolutely.
And so he'd chuck and jive a little bit, but he'd always come back to being a straight,
He was a poet.
yeah, definitely a layman's poet, a sophisticated poet, a jiving poet. Kind of reminded me of Jimi Hendrix later on when he would do like crosstown traffic. When he's singing his lyrics and all of a sudden he says, "Y'all just like a crosstown traffic." It's just like he's slipping in there so
Yeah.
smooth, so cool.
Yeah. So the third album was Just for You,
Yes,
1997.
yes. And that was the first album that Pete Anderson. No, um, yes, the third album was Just for You, the first album that Pete Anderson produced for
Talk
us.
about Pete Anderson.
He was cool, man. He's always been cool. I see him all the time at NAM and whatnot, But the record company didn't want us to do it with Pete because they said, you know, he's like a dictator. He wants everything his way and all. But it really wasn't. We just we worked together. On all the stuff, and he was really really good to us. He dug the band. I first met him at the Elvis Presley birthday party that we got invited to play. You heard about the Elvis Presley birthday party that they would hold on his birthday every January. First it was at Club Lingerie, then it was at the House of Blues, it was at the different places, and different people. They would get a lineup of like 30 musicians, and everybody played 2 songs, Elvis songs, but no repeats. If somebody already did Hound Dog, you can't do it. You got
Nice.
and him and Dwight showed up to play a couple songs, and that's where I first met him. And just nice guy, just talking to him, blah blah.
Talking about Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah, him and Dwight were there.
Because did he used to produce Dwight, or what was his relationship?
He produced most of all of, I think, the first 10 albums of Dwight. He was the producer, from the first album. You know, he was, and he was the band leader. Pete was in charge of Dwight's band, so Dwight just came in and sang and did his thing. But pretty much Pete was running it.
Hey, speaking of, we'll get back to this, but you mentioned Club Lingerie. Let's talk about when you guys were kind of, the Blazers were really getting going. You were playing that L.A. kind of punk scene, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Madame Wong's, and name some of the venues and what that was like.
It was Madame Wong's, 14 Below, and we never played at Cafe de Grand, but I wanted to, and because it seemed like the 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 punk crowd they would respond to us, and it's just like when we would go to Europe, they would put us on a blues festival. We weren't blues, but the blues fans responded to us for some reason. So it's like I guess we were in a safe place. We were somewhere in limbo, but in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Madame Wong's was always cool. It was always a lot of fun.
Um, Very important thing to talk about. Let's talk about when you met Bob Dylan and what that led to. You guys are at the Palomino. Talk about that.
Yeah, he was there at the Palomino. Gene, our manager at the time, he came up to me right before our last song. We were playing the Palomino, and we were the last band of the night, so it was kind of like, ending the whole evening. And he came up on the side. And he says, "Make an announcement." I said, "Yeah, what is it?" He says, "Let the crowd know that the Blazers are going to do an opening set for Bob Dylan at the Pantages Theater." And I just kind of looked at him. I said, "All right." I didn't believe him, but I just did. I made the announcement, and I thought he was just joking around or whatnot.
And you knew Bob was in the audience at the time?
I didn't know.
Oh.
I didn't know. None of us knew. So when we finished, and then everybody's kind of like putting stuff away, and Gene comes up to me, says, "No, dude, look," and he points to the bar area, and Bob Dylan's sitting right there talking to some people. I said, "Oh my gosh, when did he get here?" He says, "Right at the beginning of the set. He stayed there for the whole set." I said, so we went and we surrounded him like he was like he was a priest or something, excuse me. And I called him Mr. Dylan. "Excuse me, Mr. Dylan, thank you for hanging out while we play," and blah, blah. And he was the nicest guy, and he invited us to play at the Pantages Theater, which was like a week later or something.
It was his birthday, right?
It was his birthday. No, he didn't tell us that it was his birthday. We found out when we got there that day.
Now, had Gene already talked to him and kind of arranged that you guys were opening and you didn't know it, or is that what happened?
He did arrange it. But that's when he told me to make the announcement, he already had it all worked out. But we're on stage, so he's not telling me all the details yet. Just make the announcement, Okay, cool.
Wow. So talk about the performance here at the Pantages and what was going on backstage. And
we never saw him at the Pantages before the gig. He was in his dressing room. He just came out, did the show, and then he was gone. But there was other people that came to see him, his friends, a little nerve-wracking, as you can imagine, because like during our set in the middle, at the Pantages Theater, it's a theater, so the lights are on. You can only see whoever's in the first couple rows, and Ringo Starr was sitting there with his wife in the front. I forgot how to play. It's Ringo. Not only being a Beatle fan, but it's Ringo.
yeah.
He's a one-name star, and he's the guy. He played drums on Rain.
Oh my God.
Right?
She said.
I Feel Fine. That drum groove.
Yeah. He was the perfect drummer for the Beatles. Nobody else could have done that.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So he was there, and then actually right before we went on stage, we're downstairs in the dressing room, and I'm talking to some friends, and some guy walks in like he's lost, looking around. He walks right by us, but you feel this presence. And he turns around and he walks back, and it was George Harrison. And I just froze, and I was like, that was George Harrison. And he went out, he went upstairs. But later on, when I saw Ringo backstage after we played, I got to shake his hand. I said, "Oh, cool. Nice guy," just like everybody that we've met has been very, very gracious and just open to the whole thing, to just being a musician is people just love that, when you're a musician and you show that you have something to offer and you want to offer it, people open up to you,
What an experience, man. It's fantastic. And who are some of the other people, musicians that you admired, either in Europe or the United States, that you were on the bill with or met?
One time, DJ Fontana, Elvis's drummer, and Scotty Moore, guitar player, they did a CD, they did an album with different people. They had Keith Richards on it, and we're doing a gig. We're on the road, and we're in Memphis, Tennessee. And a friend of mine called me that was living there, and he says, "Hey, at this record store, blah, 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 at this time, DJ Fontana and Scotty Moore doing a sign-in for the CD. So we rushed down there, and I got a chance to meet Scotty Moore, the guy that played all those licks. He was the guy. And
Heartbreak Hotel, Hound Dog.
oh yeah, yeah. He did all that rockabilly stuff on the Sun Sessions, and then but it was like meeting one of your favorite uncles. Such a nice guy. Y'all play guitar too? Oh man, that's really great. Blah blah. Just like, but when somebody asked him something about where's a good place to go fishing in the area, he turned to that. you know, we're talking about fishing and the country boy.
Yeah.
Oh, what a talent! What a talent! And very, very gracious. So that was one story I always treasure. He signed my CD, so that was great.
Nice. So let's get back to the Peter Anderson album, Just for You. And
Just for You.
What was that like,
Yeah.
and who was on that? Who were the members of the band then?
That was still Lee Stewart on bass, and we had Raul Medrano playing drums this time. And Raul, we've been friends for a long time, and like when 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 we needed a drummer, we just asked Raul, "Hey, Raul, can you do it?" So we did this record, and then a couple of ideas came up during the recording, and I said, "Hey, man, what if we had a couple of horn players, just tenor sax and trumpet for this particular song?" We used two songs that had tenor sax. Well, then it was Lee Thornburg and Craig Smith on saxophone. Juke Logan came and played harmonica on one of the tunes. Skip Edwards played Hammond organ, and tremendous Hammond organ guy, and he played piano on the record as well.
And then after that, you did a fourth album, Puro Blazers, and it was all in Spanish.
Yeah, it was all in Spanish.
And was Pete Anderson still the producer on that?
No, we did that one on our own. We had our own little 8-track studio by that time that we had built, so we did it on 8-track tape.
Oh.
And in the beginning, we said to ourselves, we're going to do all acoustic, no electric instruments. But then all of a sudden, that Les Paul just kind of
creeped in.
So it was all good, Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that one.
And you did Creí, standard.
Yeah. I can't even think of what. Let's see. I have it right here. That's the way it looks. We don't have vinyl on this one, so it's like, by this time we had Jesse Cuevas coming in and playing bass and accordion with us, and Mike Molina on drums. And that lineup lasted the longest,
And was that before Mike had the Fabulocos, or?
Yeah, way before. Yeah, that was before. Because they started Fabulocos together, Jesse and Mike.
So, did you say everything you wanted to say about the Just for You album? We didn't go into detail about it, but
yeah,
genres on it, and particular songs, or any covers.
I can't, and I don't have a copy of it in front of me, so I can't really remember. Sometimes, but, the song Just for You was pretty interesting how that came up, because we were going on the road, and Manuel and I, to try to write songs by that time, we had these portable cassette decks, little portable cassette player that had microphones built in. They were really cool. So we get an idea, just hit it and start recording, just sing it right there. So we're driving on the road somewhere in the middle of Missouri or wherever it was, and Manuel starts singing this thing, and the song Just for You, just starts singing it, just coming out, and I go, man, record that, get your recorder. He goes, oh, I didn't bring it, I forgot it. I said, I didn't bring mine either. So we don't want to forget it, right? So I go, Manuel, is your wife at home right now? He goes, no, at this time she's probably at her sister's house or something. I go, then call your house, because we had cell phone by then.
On the answering machine?
And do it on the answering machine. And that's how we remembered the song Just for You. So
good old answering machines.
Hey, man. Yeah. You got to do what you can, right?
Yeah, brilliant idea. So you toured Europe once or twice a year for like 10 years, right?
Seemed like that. Seemed like forever.
You did
going over there, Sometimes we'd go for 1 week. Sometimes we'd go for 2 weeks. We tried not to go for 3 weeks, because that's too much, It's like, You know, try to come back home and put our feet back on the ground a little bit so that we can
And you
continue.
did Scandinavia?
Scandinavia was really cool. The first time we went to Scandinavia, it was Oslo, and that threw me for a loop because you know it's it the show time was midnight,
It was
and
daylight?
huh?
Was it daylight?
It was daylight when we were driving to the gig, right? 11 o'clock or whatever it is, and then we do the show. Boom, boom. Now it's 2 in the morning, and we're gonna go back to the hotel, and we open the door, and it's daylight. And I'm going, did it ever get dark? And they said, yeah, for 20 minutes. And I was like, wow.
Oslo, Norway. Well, did you hit some
Yeah,
of the other, did you go to Denmark or Finland?
we didn't go to Finland. We just drove through Denmark, but we did a few shows around Oslo and a couple of little towns there. Then we went across on a ferry from Norway across the North Sea to Newcastle, England. You know, one of the coldest experiences I've ever,
Oh,
caused the North Sea. It's pretty cold, man.
I know. Um, the Norwegian people took to the music as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They were really friendly people, really nice. They were into it. I mean, they were singing the lyrics to the songs. It's just like,
Wow.
ah.
Now, what about Germany and Austria? What were those people like, and how did
Well,
they respond?
that was really great. And when we had Jesse and Mike and we went over there and we were using more the accordion. So when Jesse was playing bass on the raw tunes, and then either Manuel or myself played bass when he played accordion. So I remember there's people, you always love stuff that's not from your
Yeah.
local, right? Where, it's like, so it seems that way. And I remember one guy telling me, I love the accordion and blah, blah, and the polka and this and that. And he goes, I love Flaco Jimenez and I love what you guys are doing. And I go, that's great. But, it was because of your ancestors that brought the accordion over.
Right.
It's a German thing.
Right.
It's from here. He goes, yeah, but I don't want to listen to German music. But that's where we got it from.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah. Also, the the banda music came from the German down in Mexico.
yes, yes, yeah, with the tuba.
Tuba. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And the
trip.
trumpet came from France. For the mariachi, it kind of came from,
That's crazy, right?
yeah. Yeah. And in fact, the word mariachi comes from the French word mariage for marriage, because they would play weddings.
That's a new one I didn't know. That's
Yeah.
good.
Mariage, mariachi.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk about Patrick, the accordion player, and he played on
Yeah.
one of your albums, and then he
Well,
formed
he
the
did the
Pistoleros.
last album. The last album, there was 17 Jewels, and then which is this one here,
Mhm.
and then the last album that I did for Little Dog Records, was Dreaming a Dream. And by that time, I was playing with Patrick's band. He had his band called Los Pistoleros, and it was a great band. He's a great musician, and he would play guitar, and then he would switch to accordion, and I would play the bajo, and we do that thing, right? So at some point, when I said, okay, I got to do another album for Rounder, I owed him an album, and I asked Patrick to help me with it. He played bass on the whole album, and he played all the accordion stuff.
What was his last name?
Kahl, Kahl.
Yeah, I saw you guys play at that VFW in Pointy Hills or something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I think Leo might have been playing bass with you, Leo Valenzuela.
yeah. Leo would come in. He had different bass players come in, and yeah, Leo would come in. Leo's currently playing bass with Fabulous now.
Oh, cool.
We can't get rid of Leo.
They can't get rid of Leo as much as we try. He keeps popping up. But yeah, he's played tons of shows with me and gigs. And of course, he's the brother of John Valenzuela, who was the guitar player of my band Tango.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leo's a great bass player.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys are great. And I was very impressed with Patrick. I mean, what a accordion player. And you could tell he's very highly talented. And he unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
Yeah. he used to say, "I'm Chicano by choice." You know,
Yeah.
he was really good
Amazing.
singer, really good singer, and really good harmony singer. But just all around. You know, another thing, what he would do, he had a shop. He had a repair shop. He would
That's
repair
right.
amplifiers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
think I
know,
took my amp to him one time. Yeah.
did you? Yeah, and he was so knowledgeable. I mean, like he was incredible. He had so much going on. Some people would say, "Oh, Patrick knows too much."
Yeah, I remember he had a collection of the vacuum tubes, for the Fender amps and stuff.
Yeah, I got some from him for one of my amps that I needed repair, and he put on the black plate RCA tubes, and
Yeah.
it was a pretty penny, but it's well worth it.
My Fender concert amp is in the shop right now, and it needed a little, overhaul. 500 and something bucks it's going to cost me because they got to put out, replace all kinds of stuff. I bought it in the early 80s.
Yeah, but like to buy another amp,
Oh,
do what that amp
that
does.
kind, yeah.
Yeah, I love the basement amps. I have three
For
different.
guitar?
Yeah, for guitar, I
Yeah.
have four different basement amps. I got a
Wow, a lot of
blonde
people
one,
do that. Yeah.
I got a blonde one, a black face, a silver face, and a 410.
Wow.
But like when you're a kid, like for example, when I was in high school, I had one guitar, and kept thinking, what if I had two? You know, so I'm happy to say that one of my biggest problems is when I go do a gig, which one do I take?
Exactly.
Yeah. You were saying a Music Man
Well, I was
amp?
going to say I have a Music Man bass amp. It's got one 15-inch speaker, and it's a tube amp. I bought it in around 1979. I did a lot of bass gigs, believe it or not, and for a few years. And I've never tried a guitar in it, but I bet you it might sound good
That sound good, man.
because
And
Leo Fender started the Music Man company.
the 15-inch speaker has a certain kind of pop, the way the notes come out, and I have an old Pro amplifier, Fender Pro
Mhm.
15, and a lot of the steel guitar players would always prefer the 15-inch speaker.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds
I'm a Fender guy for tube amps. My main amps are I have a Princeton from the early 80s with a 10, and I
yes,
put a more powerful 10 in it. It's really loud. It's incredible,
yeah,
clean. And then I got the concert amp from the early 80s with a 12.
yeah.
But my main amp, the biggest, is a Vibra King with 310s. Yeah.
Oh,
So
you
those
got
are,
one. You
yeah.
got one of those. I'm sure you got it before they went up so pricey.
I got it cheap. Yeah, I got it slightly used, and it was like only like 850 or something like that. They were going for like a good deal was 1650 at the time.
Oh
It
man,
was
yeah,
virtually brand new. I think the guy told me that some kid bought it and he brought it back and he goes, "Oh, this is too clean." And so it was used now, and I got
yeah.
it cheap. I got a deal on it.
Those are great amps,
Yeah.
man.
So what are your main guitars? What are your electric guitars?
I'm a Telecaster and Stratocaster and Les Paul guy. Those
Me
three.
too. Those are the three
Yeah,
main guitars I have. I
I,
have some others, but those are my main ones.
yeah, I've been a Telecaster guy for the longest time, and then I got into Strats and with the Les Pauls. Those three guitars just kind of like laid the law down for solid body electric guitars.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a 68 Les Paul Custom,
yeah,
and then I got a Tele and a Strat, but they're like from the late 90s American Standard, but they're really good.
yeah, those are great. Um, I got a custom made Telecaster that at the end, the last thing we had to do to finish the guitar out being made was to put the decal in. I ended up putting an Esquire decal on it. It just looked so cool.
You did it on purpose?
Yeah.
You had two
Yeah.
pickups, it's an Esquire. Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you quickly, we're getting real technical for people that aren't
Okay.
guitar players, but way back in like 64, I went to Philips Music. Remember Philips Music?
Yeah, yeah. I used to go there just look.
And I bought
I
a
had no money.
1961 Esquire for $100,
Oh my
you
God.
know. And I used that on some of my Mark and the Escorts records. It sounded great. Unfortunately, I sold it somewhere along the way. But yeah, I had a 61 Esquire. It was great. The neck was perfect. Beautiful. So what
There's
about
nothing like a Fender, but
your Mexican style guitars? What's the one you're famous for playing? It's a tres, is it?
oh, the tres, yeah.
Talk about that.
That's a Cuban instrument. It's a, 6 strings, so there's 3 sets of two, you know. The string in the middle, the 2 strings are unison, and then the other ones are in octaves.
Wow.
It's a wacky thing.
How'd
And
you get into that? There's very few people, right, in LA that are into that.
yeah, as a matter of fact, David Hidalgo, in conversing with him, this is 1971 or whatever it is, we're right out of high school. And I said, hey, Dave, I landed on this record. I found this record by Arsenio Rodriguez. Arsenio Rodriguez was a band leader from Cuba, and he played the tres. He was the band leader. He was the singer, played the tres, and a big band with horns and all. And he was blind. So it was like a very unique thing, but the music was just like so deep and inspirational. And he goes, oh man, yeah, he plays the tres. I go, yeah, man, I don't even know anything about the tres. He goes, oh, let me show you. That's the way Dave
You're
was.
kidding. Did David already play one?
He was already playing it in
Holy
So it's like, oh, okay. And he showed me a couple of things. He goes, here. He's like, we were at somebody's house. I forget where it was. Anyway, he goes, okay, you play that. He had the stress and he showed me. And I think he went to his car or something. I don't know how it happened. He had another one. So he goes, here, he's the chord, that's the way it's tuned. And we got into some little, oh man, yeah. He goes, I go, thanks, Dave. That's very enlightening. Thanks. And I'm handing it back to you. He goes, just hold on to it and practice with that, man. Later on, because I got this one. I go, okay, cool. To this day, I still have it.
Wow, I still haven't given it back.
I haven't given it back because whenever I mention it to him, I said, Dave, I still have your dress. And he says, oh, hold on to it, man. It's probably safer in your hands than in mine.
But it shows you amazing. Way back, even in '71, he was already playing those unusual instruments. And
yeah, he was always searching. That's the way those guys are. They're always searching for something, and that's how we all became. Just always searching for the thing. So I had this. His stress was like pretty beat up, and then I got this little Yamaha guitar. I took it to Candela's Guitars in Boyle Heights.
Mhm.
And I remember that guy, Candy. He used to call him Candy, and he knew all about the tres. He had all the templates, so he turned my Yamaha acoustic into a tres.
Wow.
So I'm playing that for a while. Then I talked to this other friend of mine. I said, hey man, can you keep an eye out? He was a luthier by the name of Gil Chavez. Gil was a genius guy. And I said, hey, can you keep an eye out for a short scale electric guitar, solid body that we could turn into a tres, because my acoustic guitar, my Yamaha, is getting all beat up. He goes, dude, you got one in your closet, and I have a Silvertone. And so he turned my Silvertone into it because it's short scale, it fit the tres,
Right.
So that's what I've been using for the past.
So like you're saying, tres obviously means three. It's 3 strings, but they're 3 double strings, like
double strings,
like a high and a low octave.
Yeah, but the middle one is in unison.
Okay. Wow.
So it's really kind of bizarre as you're going up the scale, all of a sudden you're on the bottom of the scale again.
Do you play any other traditional Mexican guitars?
I play the bajo. I have a bajo quinto, which is a 10-string instead of 12-string, without the low E. I do that with Jesse as a duets, because every time when we're doing the duets with the accordion, that's the proper sound to that.
Right.
Yeah, that's fun.
Fantastic.
With Patrick, going back to Patrick K a little bit, Patrick, was such a good singer, and he had a little repertoire of country songs. And so I play lap steel, and Patrick would always insist that I bring the lap steel, to the gig. So I was doing lap steel a lot, and kind of like practicing a lot. And since he's been gone, I haven't played the lap steel that much, but I got to get back into it,
Boy, yeah, David Hidalgo plays that as well.
Yes, he played.
What did he play?
He's the guy that whatever he picks up, he plays it like that's his main instrument.
It's amazing. Button accordion, fiddle, lap steel. It's just crazy.
Yeah, we we grew up in a part of LA that just there was so much rich talent.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's talk about that. Yeah. I mean, the whole East L.A. scene. Now, you're old enough to have witnessed some of the 60s stuff, right? What was going on,
Yeah,
the Amber Tones and the Blue Satins and the Midnighters and all that.
a lot of those bands, I always would see the posters, but I was too young to go
Okay, there you go. You're a little younger.
But still, I got to see the Midnighters play in front of a supermarket.
Was that Johnson's Market?
It might have been
Because
Johnson's.
I played that gig too. We were on that bill, yeah, behind Mark Johnson's Market.
Was that the one on Brooklyn?
Yeah,
Or
no, this is on Whittier Boulevard.
yes, yes. So I saw you play too.
Yeah, you must have seen me too. Yeah, Mark and the Escorts. Yeah, there was about 10 bands, the Counts and the Amber Tones. We all played on the back of a flatbed truck.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you're about what 4 years younger, I think we figured out.
Yeah, I turned 70 this year.
Wow.
How did that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, so you were a little young for that whole going to the dances in 1964, 65 and seeing the premieres of the Blendells and all that.
Yeah, and I remember seeing, like I say, I saw all those posters and I used to think,
Mhm.
because but I would see every now and then they would play at a dance at the high school or something. I remember the Emeralds played with Aaron Ballesteros. They played
Right.
at a dance at Roosevelt, and that
Oh,
was really cool to see them. But they played, they played stuff that I didn't think I would hear a band played live, because I would hear other bands playing, and they were playing some of the soul stuff and all that. But then they did Woodstock by Crosby, Stills and Nash.
oh yeah. Yeah, when I was with them, we did that. Yeah, I was with them in 1970 for about 6 months. But yeah, and they were famous for when they would do a song, it would sound like the record, it would be like
To the
whatever
T.
it was, whatever genre it was.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Correct
fun.
chords, correct sounds. Yeah, yeah.
That's a trip, right?
Great band. Yeah. So anyway, so then you started playing gigs with the Pistoleros. I saw you guys play, like I said. And
Yes.
so in the last, let's say in the last 5, 10 years, what bands have you been playing with and how have you been performing?
I've been doing with Fabulocos, because like when they started Fabulocos, they had Kid Ramos playing guitar, and it seemed like they were shifting gears. They were doing different things, because Kid Ramos has his own
Yeah.
thing, doing the blues thing, and so every now and then Manya would play bajo with them. He would play guitar and bajo with them, and then Manya started doing his own thing over here. And so at one point they hit me up to do it, and I've been doing it for a while now, playing with them. And there's a couple other this friend of mine named Loud Lou. He's a drummer. They call him Loud Lou because he's loud, but he's a blues guy, and I do a blues thing with him once every 6 weeks or so.
Mhm.
And this other friend of mine, Jaime Science, he's got a band that I play with him periodically. He'll call me whenever he needs me, and that's a lot of fun because he's a big fan of Doug Somm.
Oh,
So he goes into that vein, pretty cool. It's a lot of fun.
Sir Douglas Quintet and the Texas Tornadoes.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
all
didn't you
that.
do some gigs with the Texas Tornadoes on the bill and Flacco and those kind of
Yeah, we did
artists?
quite a few with them all the time, and Freddie, with Freddie Fender, man, Freddie was like a joy. One time we did a show with him and with the Tornadoes, and Freddie told me, after we did our set, Freddie told me, he goes, "Hey, on our third song, I want you to come up and play guitar on the third song that we do." I go, "Okay, what is it?" He goes, "I'll call you up." And I said, "Okay." So then he calls me up, right? "Hey, Ruben, come on up, blah, blah, blah." I go up there, I get my guitar, I go, "Freddie, what are we gonna play?" And he goes, "Key of F." He just all he told me, and he starts singing "Tell It Like It Is."
Oh, wow.
Just breaks into it like a bird. Like nobody has a voice like that. He's got a unique
Yeah.
sound to
Mhm.
his voice, and the hair on my arms went.
Did you
Just
figure out the chords?
well, I luckily I knew where to go, sort of. Then halfway through it, I'm okay. I'm in. I got it. But that sound,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's something else.
And how about Flacco? Did you know him pretty well?
Flaco, yeah, we did gigs. We've done, and I haven't heard from him in a long time. I don't think he's doing too many gigs right now, but
Yeah.
I got a chance to do some gigs, a couple of gigs with him, playing together with him like that, and he would invite me up to come play on a couple of songs when they were playing as a Tornadoes as
Yeah.
well. Doug, Doug, one time, unfortunately, Doug was started telling me one time that he was worried about Flaco's health, and this was, about a year before Doug passed away. It's just like he was worried about Flaco, and
And what year was this roughly you're talking about?
late 90s,
Late
late
90s.
90s, because
You
I
know,
think,
I can tell you this, my dad and I went to perform in Paris, France in 1998, I believe, and Flacco was on the bill.
wow,
And anyway, at that time, I guess I'm not telling tales out of school, I hope, but he was having trouble, I think, because he had been drinking a lot, and I think they had to remove like half of his stomach,
oh,
and he was
yeah,
still drinking beer, in the morning. And
yeah,
so I'm saying I was worried about him in 98, right? He's still
yeah,
around right now.
still there. He's still there.
He might still be drinking beer. I don't know.
He might, who knows? I don't know.
But
But
yeah, I got to play with him. We got to do a radio show in Paris the night before the show to publicize it, and I got to do one of my songs with Flacco on accordion. My song "Oh Maria," it's a polka.
uh,
Oh Maria, won't you dance with me tonight? Don't. Oh Maria, everything will be all right. And I had Flacco playing, and it was on the radio. And I give anything if I had a tape of that, but I don't.
well, yeah,
But we did the show, and we were on. It was my dad and me and the band with Lencho. You know Lorenzo Martinez?
yeah,
Lencho?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he was playing guitarron with us,
Oh
and
man.
Max Baca was there playing with Flacco, and Louis
Yeah,
Mendez was there. It was a great thing. A bunch of Chicanos going crazy in Paris, man.
that's funny. That's
And I
really
got to go up
cool.
and do the La Bamba finale with Flacco's band. So that's
Yeah.
a great memory for me, that trip.
Wow. Lorenzo Martinez, back to the Puro Blazers album, the one all in Spanish. He played drums on a couple of tracks on that.
That's another guy that's incredibly talented. I mean, he's a great drummer. He's a great guitarron player and bass player, but he can also pick up a guitar and he can sing.
He plays tenor sax. He plays tenor sax,
Yeah,
and he sings like a bird. You
yeah.
know.
And he looks and acts like a cholo, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, he dresses like a cholo with the pointed shoes and the hats and the bigote. But I always say he's the next evolution of the cholo. He's like this highly advanced guy, man. Very
Yeah,
talented,
yes, and that's true. Highly advanced is perfect for him.
right? And a nice guy.
Such a talent.
Good old Lencho. It's cool. I like the way this conversation has just brought in other things. How it's just evolving. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what
so
we do.
that's what we do, man. That's why this is East LA Music Stories. It's just two guys talking, telling stories. That's what it's about. So now you teach, right? At the
Yeah, I
Corona.
teach.
Talk about that.
You want to talk about the teaching?
The whole thing. Yeah, because it's impressive. Is it the Fender Custom Shop or what is it?
The custom shop started the school in 1998.
Mhm.
And then when my days of going on the road were slowing down and all that, and I said, okay, let me lock into this here. This friend of mine was Mark Kendrick, who was one of the custom shop builders. I hit him up. I said, what about that school over there? Because we had done a gig at the school. We did a gig with Merle Haggard at
No,
that.
wow.
Yeah. And Mark got us the gig, and I said, hey, Mark, what about the school? Tell me about it. He goes, well, they're doing this. And oh, man, is there room for another guitar teacher? He goes, here's the phone number. Talk to this lady, blah, blah. And so I called, and I got a job teaching. It was just like, it was at the right time.
What year was this roughly? Do you know?
2006.
And you're still teaching there now, all these years.
Yeah, like since then it was called the Fender Center for the Performing Arts,
Mhm.
and so now it's called the YMCA Fender Music School because the YMCA took over the administration,
Mhm.
and So I'm still there. There was two of us teaching guitar for a long time, and Lee was teaching guitar, Lee Zimmer, and he moved out of state. He moved to Arizona. So and they kept saying, "Well, we got to hire another teacher. We got to hire another teacher." And I was like, "But they never did." So I'm the only one teaching guitar there.
Now you
It's
mentioned you weren't reading on guitar, so are you teaching like just by head, kind of just without the notes?
like I taught quite a few students how to read, and they become better readers than I will ever be. I said because I didn't learn how to read when I was younger. It's like I tried teaching myself how to read after I've been playing like already 10 years or so. And your eye and your ear they're not lined up. So it gets kind of like it's a struggle. But I know how to do it and I know how to teach it.
Oh, I see. So you do use
So,
that.
yeah, we start off with reading and understanding that, so that when we get into other things, they understand the language.
And the chord charts.
Chord charts and different things like that. What a rest means, quarter rest, eighth rest, etc. But all that technical stuff. And then I have a couple of bands that I direct, the kids bands.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, sometimes they're really popping tight, and sometimes they fall apart. But it's fun. It's like they're kids, man.
Yeah,
You know, and so I'm still doing that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days a week.
fantastic. Well, sounds like you got it covered, man. So some of the people you've been on the bill with over the years are Booker T of Booker T and the MGs, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Alvin Lee, the Blasters, of course, Doug Sam Band and Texas Tornadoes, Los Lobos, Bob Dylan. So tell me about some of these people, and tell me about Booker T. You were going to mention something.
Yeah, Booker T. We did a gig with him, and he was a headliner to the music festival. It was a music festival on the river in St. Louis, Missouri, right? And it was right, a really beautiful place, beautiful setting, and the afternoon sun and all this, right? But a few hours before the gig, we get to our hotel, and we get in the hotel, and it's like, okay, man, I'm just gonna take five right here in the lobby before I go to my room. I was sitting there, I was so tired, and I see Booker T at the counter checking in to getting his room. I go, that's Booker T, man. I'll say hello later. What is his name? So I'm walking down the hallway, going to my room, and I see him getting in his room, and he's got all kinds of things, and he's struggling with his key. And I said, "Oh man, Booker T. Jones." And he says, "Yeah, man, how you doing?" I go, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. I grew up with your music, man." And he put his hand out to shake my hand. As I shake his hand, he drops all his paperwork, and there I am on the floor helping him pick up his papers. And my meeting with Booker T. It's like I was
Fantastic.
so embarrassed, but he was the nicest guy and so cool.
Yeah. Green
And
Onions, we grew up with all that stuff, man.
man, the stuff that they laid down. Yeah, it's part of our growing up. It's part of
Plus,
our
he backed up all the Stax Volt artists.
yeah. He did all that. Played piano on that famous Hammond organ, and it's just like
And he's still around.
yeah, yeah. That was my meeting with Booker T.
Well, that's pretty funny. Any other memories of some of these other groups? Fabulous Thunderbirds, Alvin
Well,
Lee.
we did a few with the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Jimmy Vaughn was always real cool with us, and one time we got invited to to go see Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah,
Wow.
the Fabulous Thunderbirds were opening set. So I went with Cesar and Manu. The three of us went down there, and we're hanging out. And Stevie Ray Vaughan is finally on stage, and I'm sitting on the side. We're backstage because we got invited. So I'm sitting on the side of the stage talking to Jimmy Vaughn while Stevie Ray is just killing it, right?
Oh my God.
Stevie Ray Vaughan. Um, he comes off the stage when he finishes, and he says hello to his brother, and his brother Jimmy Vaughn introduced me to Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Oh
and I
wow.
shook his hand. I was like, I don't want to be anywhere else but right here, right now. This is so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, but tremendous talent, tremendous.
Yeah, unbelievable. And he played with really heavy strings, I hear, like really heavy.
Yeah,
How
you
in the
know,
hell did he bend those notes?
yeah, and as they were putting stuff away, he left because he had to go, and Jimmy Vaughn went the other way, and I was kind of alone back there for a minute or two, and one of his strats was right there on the stand, and I just kind of put my hand around the neck, and I go, I can't play this thing. Yeah, they were really heavy strings, but a baseball bat of a neck, and it's just like,
Incredible. He must have
yeah,
strong fingers.
you know, I use light strings on my guitar because I'm 70.
Yeah, I use nines or tens. What about you?
Yeah, I've been using 9.5s. They make half sizes.
I didn't know they had those now.
Yeah, so that's why I've been for a while. Now we're getting technical for
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But there are a lot of musicians watching, hopefully. I know they are.
that's cool.
I got to see Jimmy Vaughn perform this summer. I was in Tucson. I did a lot of things while I was there, but I saw Ringo in concert there,
Oh,
and with his great band, and I saw Jimmy Vaughn play at the Rialto Theater there in Tucson, and it was really entertaining. He had a great band. He had great musicians, a great horn section, and yeah, he was pretty cool, you know.
yeah,
And
he's
yeah, I noticed he plays sometimes with a pick, sometimes with the fingers, and I noticed that when he plays with his fingers, he's better. You know, when he's doing the blues,
yeah,
people can play better with their fingers. You know,
yeah.
how
Well,
about you? Do you use fingers sometimes? Or you always
I'm 50% with a pick, 50% with my fingers. I go
yeah,
back and forth
yeah.
depending on
So
depending on the
sometimes you're not even holding a pick at all. It's just all fingers.
all fingers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
I usually use a pick, but I use, you know how you can use a pick and still use your other fingers down below.
yeah.
I can
I
do
do
that a
that. I
lot.
do that, and I don't do that as well as if I'm just fingers.
Yeah.
And like the guys like Freddie King will use a thumb pick and his index finger,
Oh yeah, a lot of
but
guys do that.
I can never control the thumb
Yeah,
pick. And
yeah.
I love the sound of it, but I just so I'm just all like bareback, as they say.
Yeah, I didn't know Freddie King did that. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah. I once in a while when I'm on my gig, I'll just play some blues with just fingers and experiment. I can do it, but I don't do it regularly enough to feel real comfortable with it. But you can actually play faster because you can involve the other strings. You know.
yeah. I'm doing the different things. I just got into it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I started doing it more and more was because I was starting to wanted to play like a piano attack, like when you attack piano chords,
Right.
I could do that this way,
Oh
and
yeah.
and it has that same attack. And
And
then I
also,
go,
a finger has a different sound than a plastic pick. It's a
yes,
more mellow, a warmer sound.
yes, yes, way different, way different.
Yeah.
And every now and then I try to, my own interpretation of Wes Montgomery and just
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I do
thumb,
that.
but you
I can
can't.
do that with a pick. I usually do it with a pick. I put it on a mellow tone. You
Yeah,
can't use a similar thing, but I can do it with the thumb too. But again, I'm not as comfortable doing it. But
yeah.
yeah, that's
Now we're
another
talking
game.
about now we're talking about different heroes, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. Everybody's got to have a little bit of Wes Montgomery in them, a little bit of Freddie King, a little bit of Chuck Berry. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, all that stuff.
Beautiful. So,
People, and people tell me, who's your favorite guitar player? I go, oh, dude, so many people.
all different.
There's Mark Guerrero.
Hey, and there's Ruben Guaderrama. It's so you're always learning, right? You can
All the time.
I've been
All the
playing for like 60 years and I'm still learning and a student, right? It's improving all the time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. It's music. Music is just like, one of the things I try to teach my students as a teacher, and one of the frustrating things about being a teacher is that the passion that I have for music, I try to pass it along and try to teach them that,
Yes.
understand that. And sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes when it does, it's a special thing. And
Yeah.
I've had some students grow up and be really good players, because
Yeah.
they love it. They love it and they have the talent. Go for it, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just remembered there was a show you did that I was involved in helping hire you. Remember that when you came out to play in Palm Springs at the O'Donnell Golf Course around 2010?
Yes,
And
yes.
everybody was there, man. It was Malo, Tierra, El Chicano,
Yeah,
Late Blazers. I was playing with a Cannibal and the Headhunters band, but we also did a set of my show, of my music. And it was a 3-day festival. And I remember seeing you there and talking to you. And you had a drummer that I knew. What was his name? Can you think of it? The
oh, who
Anglo
played
guy?
drums? That was John Palmer played trumpet.
Yes, yes. And I knew John Palmer through my friend Alex Armstrong. They were both from Baltimore.
Oh,
And
okay.
and back in the 80s, John Palmer used to play with Alex in his original band that was doing showcases. So I got to know him back then. It was really, I remember he was dressed kind of rockabilly and he really fit into the vibe of the Blazers.
Yeah.
So how long did he play with you?
Just a few gigs, actually.
Oh,
Just, off and on. He played with Manuel for a lot.
oh, he did.
The big Manuel called it the Big Manny Band,
Okay, I remember that. And Leo played with him a lot too.
Yeah, Leo played with him, with Palmer,
So let's talk about Manny. Now he passed away how long ago?
2016.
Yeah, I remember going to his service, and I was surprised it was at a Jewish cemetery.
Yeah, he had converted to Judaism.
That's what I was wondering. I thought he had to have done that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that, so I was surprised.
Him and his wife both,
Was it kind of recent, or had it been for a long, long time?
it seemed like a long time, I don't know exactly when he did it, but it seemed like, many years already
Yeah.
by that he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty much a shock to us, to me. He was my lifelong friend.
Yeah.
That hung out a lot together. We go to each other's houses and raid the refrigerator constantly.
You must have had it well stocked.
Oh man, like he'd come over to my house and he'd say, "Did your mom make any beans?" Because he loved the way my mom made the beans. I go, "Yeah, man, come on in." So that's one of those things. We first met and we first had the connection to each other when we were in the 10th grade, and we both had Telecasters. So that was already, we're bonding here. We have a connection. We're Telecaster maniacs.
Yeah. I was just remembering, I think the only time you ever saw me play live was a few years ago at that, it was in a restaurant, a memorial celebration of life for Sylvia Corrales. And it was in a big restaurant in Whittier.
Yeah.
And I was playing with John Valenzuela and Robert Zapata.
Yes.
Little Hender's band. And I think that's the only time you ever saw me play. And I remember you were sitting pretty close there, and I thought, oh, he's watching. I better play well. But yeah, remember that?
I remember seeing you one time also somewhere in West L.A. I had to do something about Casey Kasem.
Long time ago, decades ago.
Long time ago, and Jimmy, the bass player for the Midnighters, was there, and I don't know if he played with you or not, or it was
kind of a jam thing, not an actual band.
Kind of, but you had your thing going. They announced you, they presented you, and then you did your stuff, and it was really good. And it's just,
I don't remember that one, but at our age, we forget certain gigs, right?
I forget what they're called. I forget where, that kind of stuff. There's so many gigs through the years, man.
Yeah. So when I talked to my old drummer Ernie, he'll remember gigs and he'll remember incidents. Remember when this happened? No idea, and vice versa. No idea, no recollection of some place we played, or when the car broke down somewhere, or
Yeah.
I guess we have selective memories. We remember
so much to it. Like sometimes, people tell me, do you sit at home and listen to your albums? And I said, actually, no, because I listen to them if I need to remember something.
Exactly.
Forget a chord.
We heard them so much when we were recording them, and when for the first year or whatever. And then
when I'm hearing them, I think of what happened that day. Oh, I remember I was late because I had a flat, or whatever.
You remember the session? I remember the sessions. And what about things that you think you could have done better? Things where maybe you were singing a little flat, or I should have done this. There's a lot of regrets in the records too.
So much of that, and so like I remember John Lennon saying one time that he should record everything all over again.
Because George Martin asked him, "Are there any of the Beatles songs you'd like to do over?" And he said, "All of them."
Yeah, he said, all of them. So I understand that. So like when people, like actors, when they make a movie, they say, "No, I don't watch it. I'm not going to see it."
It's hard to watch themselves.
Hard to watch. I can do it now. When Manuel first passed, I couldn't at all. it was such a deep thing.
Yeah.
And then it started coming back little by little. So like I'll go someplace where they're having a little festive thing, a little party or something, and they put the Blazers on the jukebox or whatever it is. It's like it it's a real nice feeling that they like it.
Yeah.
But I don't listen to it at home
Yeah.
like that.
On the other side, on the negative side, there was always sometimes you hear certain regrets. I wish I'd done that, or blah blah blah. Or, you hear the imperfections. It could be like great, but there's little imperfections that bug you. On the other hand, as you get older, when I hear my early stuff, I'm amazed how good it was. It's like better than you remember it, and you go, I can't believe I wrote that and did that when I was 21 or when I was 15.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
hear the Mark and the Escorts record, our first record, Get Your Baby, 1964. I was like 15. And I had only been playing guitar for 2 years. And I did that lead guitar on Get Your Baby. And I go, how did I do that? How did I do that so quick? And it surprises you. So you can at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I remember on the first album on Short Fuse, there was one ballad that Manuel was singing, and we're talking about having a slide guitar of some sort. And Cesar was talking about, well, we'll call Ry Cooder, come and play lap steel.
Wow.
That'd be cool. And so I got my lap steel out and I kind of improvised a couple of things just to play around with it. And they liked what I did. We kept it. I said, oh. And they were joking. Who needs Ry Cooder? I go, well, wait a minute.
We got Ruben.
I don't know. It's just like, but like Sapos count even in
Sapos count, man.
Even in basketball, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But getting back to what I was saying earlier, my dad, when he got really old, when he was in his 80s, he was listening to some of the records he made when he was in his 20s and his 30s. And he called me up and he goes, you know what? I didn't realize how good I was. I was great. I didn't realize it. You know what I mean? So, because it's you're just being you.
Yeah.
But later you get old and you look at it, you go, why? I can't believe I did that,
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of art, of our art,
Mhm.
that because music is such a personal thing. When you play it, you put your stamp on it. That's your fingerprint.
And thank God we have all these records. We have evidence of what we did. It'll go on when we're gone,
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Right.
This is great.
Yeah, man, I'm enjoying it too. So yeah, I think we covered anything. Can you
All right.
anything else?
I can't
How about this? I usually ask people, how do you feel about being part of the whole East LA music history and heritage and the East LA music scene? I mean, what does it mean to you and how do you feel about it?
It's a homegrown thing. It's like it's so personal because we grew up there. We grew up in that era, and what was happening there with the people that nurtured us to understand the music and to understand music in general. My mom was a big music lover. She helped me out in so many ways that she didn't know. I would be in the back room of the house, 13 years old, trying to wait. I don't know if that's right. And she walked in and she went right for the throat. She said, if you don't get it right, nobody's going to pay you. And I went, but she did it in a loving way that, just like, there it is. And that was right there in the heart of Boyle Heights in East L.A. Just like, and then when I would see other people, other players, just like so much great talent out of that time at that place.
Yeah. And again, it's gone on, the 60s generation, the 70s, 80s, 90s to today. There have always been East LA bands, a lot of them. And, they evolved through the punk scene and through the cumbia thing and whatever it is, it's always every genre you could think of, and there's always been talent there. There's always been a scene there. But we were lucky because we were there in the early days. When you think about it, rock and roll as we know it kind of came about 1956, 57, rock and roll like we know it, And to think that in the early 60s when I was playing and even in the times you were playing in the early 70s, rock and roll wasn't that old at that time. There was only like 15, really, like when I was doing it, like 7, 8 years of rock and roll to look back on. Now kids that play, they can look back on 60, 70 years of history to draw from.
Yeah.
And it was new then. It was pretty new, and recording was new.
Very new and very inspiring, because, like, you know, the people that we got it from Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly and all
Jerry
those.
Lee, Little Richard.
Oh man, just like, you know, it's amazing. And the area, we would learn how to play Johnny Be Good, and then you'd run into somebody years later when you're on the road, somebody from Florida, and they learned Johnny Be Good, but they played it a little bit differently,
Right.
because they're from over there, we're from over here. And
Yeah.
so
Oh yeah. East Coast, West Coast are different sounds, different vibes, different influences.
and it's all good, man.
And then us being Chicanos in LA, there was that Latin influence, and the Chicano influence came into it, and our sensibilities and we did with it.
Yeah, you know, and like I never considered myself to be a jazz player, because I love jazz, but I'm not. I don't play it as well as I think a jazz player would, whatever that means, you know. But and then you would hear Latin jazz, and that came out, and you're going, oh, they're incorporating. Oh, look at it, they're doing a cha-cha right here.
Right.
Like, oh, it's pretty cool. So many different things that you could put in there, you know.
And also when we were in the 60s and early 70s, you know, it was wonderful because on the radio, you would hear, you know, the Beatles, James Brown, Stax Volt, Motown, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all on the same charts, all on the same stations.
On the same station, yes. You would hear all that on the same station. You go, oh, what, Jimi Hendrix now? Oh, man. On the same station. You didn't have to change.
That's it. So we had all those influences. And so all the East LA bands, we all took from that. When the British invasion came in, the Beatles, that came into the mix, you know, and just kept going to this day.
All these, and so many great guitar players, you know.
Oh man, yeah, so many great guitar players came out of East LA.
Yeah,
great bands.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, man. Well, cool.
Thank you, man.
Well, thanks for doing it, man.
Yeah, and if we think of other things, we can always do another one, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Mark, God bless you. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
I had a great time, man.
So did I. Yeah, it was fun.